Thanks, Emma. Welcome. Thank you for taking time to meet with me. And yeah, it's just wonderful to have you here. Of course, you'll be doing a workshop for us shortly. And so previous to that, I just wanted to sit down with you, answer a few questions, and yeah, give people a bit of insight into who you are and what you do.
Yeah, that sounds good.
No worries. So reading up a little bit about you, doing a little bit of research, you of course have a background in fashion industry. That's what you studied at university. Please correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, by the way. I was like just starting, I'm thinking, oh, bloody hell, please don't say I'm wrong. Founder of Carmen Club and Studio Self-Made, content creator, brand designer, and social media strategist. And it very much shows with over 11,000 followers on LinkedIn, which incredibly impressive. And of course, Hallam Enterprise Award winner, beating me just slightly.
Not about that at all.
But I wanted to start off a little bit about your journey into the Carmen Club, because you pivoted a little bit away from fashion industry or fashion design and stuff like that, and you went away from doing those studies because it was a little bit harder to get into industry. So just talk me through a little bit about your thinking in terms of starting Carmen Club and what that meant.
Yeah, so I started the Carmen Club in 2019, and it was just before I started my placement year at the time, which I'd already decided to do a work for yourself placement year rather than go into industry, which I was very nervous about because everybody was going off and doing internships at big fashion brands, and I felt like maybe I'm making a mistake here by not going into the industry. But often with the fashion industry, it was a lot of unpaid internships, having to move to London, having to relocate, which is obviously very expensive to do if you're not getting paid as well. It makes it almost impossible to do that. So I came up with the idea of starting the Carmen Club, mainly from my own experience with anxiety. One day I was out and I had a really bad panic attack, and I was like, there needs to be a product that can help me manage my anxiety when I am kind of on the go, so it doesn't stop me from doing the things that I want to do. So I went home, grabbed my iPad, and literally just drew out like what I wanted to be in the first, it was called the Calm Club then, I then rebranded later on as the Calming Club, but in the first like Calm Club box. And I actually came up with the name on the same day as well, and literally came up with it all at the same time. And then from there went on to do the placement year, started developing the products, and then just before lockdown I launched them, not obviously knowing that was going to happen, and did my first pop-up in Sheffield, which was great, got great response for the products, and I thought, right, this is the start of selling in person, selling more products. And then obviously we went into lockdown, had to move everything online, but that was a really good time for me because obviously a lot of people were struggling during the pandemic and shopping online for products that could help them with their anxiety. So that really like threw me in at the deep end to growing a business, but it taught me a lot about how to design a product, manufacture a product, sell it, ship it, all of those other things as well. And then I carried on doing that during my final year, and then did it when I graduated too. So it really started the ball rolling for my entrepreneurship career, and then things just went from there, really.
Yeah. Going a little bit into sort of like that entrepreneur kind of spirit, obviously, like you say, you were kind of like thrown into the deep end kind of thing and just had to learn for yourself. Was there did you see a lot of differences when going back to university in what you learned versus people who were doing the internships and, were able to work at different studios or what have you, or work underneath people? Was there a big difference there, or did you find those similar teachings?
That's a very good question. I mean, I have quite a unique experience where before I went on my placement year, I was doing fashion design. And then when I came back, I changed my course to fashion management and communication. So I switched a little bit because I wanted to focus on learning more about marketing, communications, how to design websites, the graphic design side of things. My final year of university was 2 weeks in uni, and then the rest was completely online. So I barely got to be around a lot of the people that were kind of in my year group from university. It was very much like head down, focused on your own work, and very isolating too. So it was really difficult to know how they would have done compared to me. But I think being an entrepreneur, if we want to use that word, you're very driven, you're very self-motivated, you're very you kind of have to make things happen for yourself. So I found within the final year that I was really able to make things happen and kind of put myself out there because I had that motivation and drive that I'd cultivated during the placement year too. So I put myself out there for awards and got to meet new clients and really started to put myself out there, even though things were online, just really looking for those opportunities and how I could integrate them into my final year. So the Calming Club was part of my final year project. So it really just helped me then kind of springboard into my career afterwards too. So I don't know, things may have been very different if I didn't industry placement. Who knows where I would have been? But I think it's quite interesting to think about like where you could have ended up if you'd taken a different decision. But I'm very happy with where I've ended up now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that kind of nicely leads on to my next question in terms of how did that experience and the journey running your first business, as well as your experience with anxiety, how did that shape your values going into your next business, Studio Self-Made?
I think I realized when I graduated, especially with it being in 2021, where it was kind of the world was still a bit uncertain, I felt like I was just abandoned and kind of left to my own devices of like, okay, you've graduated, now what? Especially in the creative industries, if you've not made those connections while you were at university, it's very difficult to then know where to go afterwards. And I find that a lot of graduates kind of leave thinking there's going to be this shiny future and that they've been promised, but actually there's no route in, or they realize there's so many more barriers to accessing it than they thought there was. So I think that's what I realized when I graduated, was like, oh, okay, I've really got to make this for myself because nobody's going to give me these opportunities. So I spent a year freelancing, carrying on building the Calming Club. And after about a year or so, I started to see more graduates coming out of university and seeing them face the same struggles. And I thought, why don't I do something that could help them, which is like helping them start a business or go freelance? Because I think that's a great way to build experience whilst you're at university, rather than waiting for somebody to hand you a placement or make you do unpaid work. Why don't you build something for yourself and try and help other people do that so they could create their own experience and then create their own opportunities as well? So that's what kind of inspired me to set up Studio Self-Made afterwards, and then integrate the whole mental health mindset part of it, because you can't get these opportunities if you've got self-doubt, imposter syndrome holding you back at the same time. So it's really important that people work on that too, and I support people with that, because you can't give them all the tools if you don't help them with their mindset as well. So that's where it really came from.
One of your like really great tools that I was looking at, and I recommend for anyone watching this to go onto Emma's LinkedIn profile and look at how to use LinkedIn as a creative without burning out. Again, using, like you say, that mental health experience and that toolkit there, and bringing that into Studio Self-Made was fantastic. And you even talk about the, I'm going to butcher this, Ikigai framework. Fantastic. And so talking about, well, firstly, tell me a little bit, in your eyes about, I can try to explain it, but you'll do much better about it. So one, explaining about that framework, and then as well, what were some of the recurring themes that popped up there that then led to the business framework for Studio Self-Made?
Yeah, so I think often when we're giving career advice at university or at school, it's very much around like, what job do you want? And there was never really the option on the table for me of like, would you want to start your own business, or do you want to create your own job? So when I discovered the Ikigai framework, which is a Japanese concept, which basically means your reason for being, and it's like your purpose. So when I discovered that, it really spoke to me in terms of like finding what you're good at, what you're interested in, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for, because I think they're all four really important components of choosing a career path that actually aligns with your values and makes you feel happy too, because we can think about what we get paid for, but especially for me and a lot of people that I work with, if I'm not having an impact on people, it doesn't feel meaningful for me. So that's where I really found that framework really spoke to me. And then I've used that to help other clients build the foundations of their personal brands. So I do a lot of work in the personal branding space, and often people will just be talking about the work they do without realizing that there's so much more to them than just the work that they do on an everyday basis. It's their values, their interests, the stories that led them to where they are. So basically, when you do that exercise, you find where there's like common themes around the Ikigai. So if there's anything that crosses over, or anything showing up in the four different boxes and the different different questions, you'll find that that is often your ikigai, and that's where you find your happy place, basically. So I often try and help my clients find that first, and then we build from there. But yeah, it's a really great exercise. If you haven't tried it already, I definitely recommend it.
I am going to be going away and trying it. Literally, as doing the research for before this interview, I was just like, this is really cool. I need to do this myself. So yes, absolutely. Anyone listening, definitely try that out.
Yeah.
In terms of, because then I guess that forms a little bit around what content you do. Because again, I don't want to spoil too much about the video. You should watch it on Emma's LinkedIn. But you then go into the pillars of content for your social media.
Yeah.
And one of the big things we see now is people trying to use the algorithm to their advantage by doing lots of short clips or video content. But then for a lot of people, that won't align with what they prefer. Now, to you working with your clients, do you go from approach of, no, we still need to try and follow the algorithm a little bit and go towards these themes? Or is it better for someone to prioritize what content works for them and go from there and just lean into that?
That's a good question. I think LinkedIn is my favorite platform, which says that it prioritizes video, but I don't know whether it actually does, because when I post video, it doesn't do as well. So I found that written content performs really well on there, or visual content. So that definitely plays to my strengths and what I like to do. So I use LinkedIn quite a lot for my content. But when working with clients, I'd say, don't try and appeal to the algorithm too much, because otherwise you'll just end up chasing it constantly, and it always changes what it wants. Like LinkedIn says it wants video, but does it really want video? And you end up just going around in circles. So I think it's much more important to stay true to yourself when you're creating content on social media. Obviously there's elements like if you're creating content on TikTok, you won't be creating written content because it's all video. So you've got to adapt it to the different platforms. But I'd really find, where is your audience? Where do they spend time? But also, what platforms do you enjoy using, creating content for? Because if you absolutely hate creating short form video and I tell you to post on TikTok, every time I see you, you're going to be like, I haven't done it. I procrastinated. I've not done it again. And that's absolutely fine. But you've got to find where you enjoy creating content. Otherwise, there's no point in doing it. And I definitely say it's like part of a long game. You're not going to be able to see overnight success. Like I've been posting 3 times a week for over a year now, and seeing the gradual progress of things really starting to take off, but it's not going to be an overnight success. So it's really about building that consistency, posting regularly. And if you enjoy it, you're going to stick with it. So that's the main thing you should focus on, really. But doing that ikigai, finding your content pillars, that'll give you some guidance of like, okay, what do I do next? What kind of content do I create on these platforms? So hopefully that makes it a little bit easier, because I know we're very busy people and often we don't have a lot of time to create content.
Yeah.
It's making that work around all the other creative work that we do as well.
And then just because I didn't want to keep you too long, so this leads on to my last question for you. So we've just talked a bunch about social media, the use of social media and how it can help us propel our personal brand as well as our personality and get those clients in. But what we're finding now is there's a movement away from social media and owned platforms such as LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter or X, and people are moving towards their own owned platforms, so say blog posts, community platforms, stuff like that. Now, of course, you know, we both know that social media is still going to play a role for a long time to come, but where do you see that role being in 5-10 years? Do you think people will very much be on their own websites and whatnot, and social media is going to be dying off a bit, or do you think no, it's still going to be very powerful?
Oh, I could talk about that for hours, to be honest. There's so many layers to that question. I think social media is going to play a part. I mean, the new generations that are coming up apparently are saying that they want to use social media less because it makes them feel more isolated and lonely, and I completely get that. And I think there's definitely more room for in-person connection, and I think that's so needed. I definitely think social media plays a part of it. I get clients from networking events, but then they probably see my content on LinkedIn and that nurtures them even more, and then they become a client. So I think it's important to have it as part of your brand ecosystem. That's what I kind of refer to it with my clients, is that it's one piece of the puzzle. So you might have your own platform, you might have your own mailing list or Substack or something like that, where you keep your audience, but people have got to discover you and find you somehow. So social media does play a part, but also that in-person networking, word of mouth, all those are the tools that you have. But I would, like I said before, I'd really try and find a platform that you enjoy creating content on, because then it doesn't feel like work. It feels like it's a natural part of your process. And one of the reasons I like LinkedIn is because people actually respond in the comments, and it actually feels like a community. Whereas if I post on Instagram, it's just shouting into the void, and I maybe get a bot in the comments, and that's about it. Whereas if we're thinking about finding a platform where you find your community, then I think you'll be creating content that you actually enjoy over there too. So I think there's definitely a part to play, and I think it will be for quite a while yet. But I'm interested to see on where things go and how things change, because everything changes so quickly too. So we'll see what the future holds with that.
Well, thank you again for your time, Emma. I'll leave it there, but for anyone viewing, definitely check out Emma's stuff on her LinkedIn, on her website, and Emma is thankfully going to be the first person doing a workshop for the Studio 2 community on personal branding. So you can hear more from Emma herself on that workshop. Make sure to get booked on. But for now, thank you.